It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
A strong, sensitive self-esteem is your first step to anything you wish to accomplish. Yet too often we attempt to leave our comfort zone. We have that chorus of inner critics inside our heads, the itty-bitty shitty committee, as I like to call mine, whispering self-sabotaging doubt and untrue trash talk in our ear. Confidence in Bloom celebrates women who rise above and move beyond any self-doubt and old, outmoded, limiting beliefs. Women who have reconnected with who they truly are, that gorgeous, talented, fabulous gift to the world, who deserve recognition and unconditional love. My hope is that their insights inspire all of you to do the same. You know the most beautiful thing any woman can wear is confidence. Here with the Divas That Care Network, I, Tina Spolatini, speak with women now secure in their own self-confidence, so we can learn from their stories of how they found themselves and became the magnificent role models they are to us all now. And today I'm speaking with Cindy Coury Ashton. By age 3, Cindy Ashton was already wearing sequins, singing classics, and dancing around her living room to her audience of millions. Since then, she has graced thousands of stages as a singer, actor, including headlining Times Square Fashion Week and the Oscars Gala. She is also an award-winning TV host, producer, and celebrity interviewer, bringing her flair for stagecraft to the business world. Cindy teaches business professionals how to speak from their power to boost their sales, leadership, and influence. She is also the author of Liberate Your Voice, How to Trust Your Power in a World That Shuts You Down. She has received awards from President Obama and Queen Elizabeth II for her lifetime of volunteerism and has appeared in multiple media, including ABC's Thrive Global Incorporated magazine and forums. Oh, welcome, Cindy. How are you?
Tina, I am absolutely fantastic, especially now that I am here with you and all your fabulous listeners.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So where are you today? Are you in Paris?
No, I'm actually in the south of France in a little town called Béziers. Although everyone keeps telling me it's not a little town, but I grew up in Toronto, lived in LA, lived in New York, lived in Paris. So it seems small town to me, but it's a mid-sized town in the south of France.
Yeah. Wow. And I'm sure it's just as beautiful as the rest of France.
Well, they've got this beautiful cathedral, and if you feel like you want exercise going up these tiny little rickety stairs that are probably not up to code if you lived in North America, you can climb all the way to the top of this cathedral and see the mountains and the river and the trees. I mean, it's beautiful. It really is. It's a workout to get up there, and you have to really hold on because they're rickety old stairs.
Wow. Yeah, I probably wouldn't venture that, but that sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it's really quite lovely. Yeah, France is a beautiful country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a beautiful country. Now, your journey in performance started at a very young age. I mean, 3 is pretty young.
So that's my ongoing joke that I was like 3 years old. I was like already like wearing like sequins. And so I wasn't professionally performing, but people are like, when did you want to know that you are going to be a performer? And I'm like, since I was a fetus, it was always just like, it was never a choice. It was never a choice.
I love that.
I mean, it's been in my blood. I mean, I went to teachers college. I had a part-time educational consulting gig at $120 an hour, which is a lot of money even today, let alone back when I was 25 years old. I mean, I've always been the performer, and I always go back to being the performer. It's in my blood, and it's my gift, and it's what I'm meant to do and have been doing for a gazillion years.
And I love that. I love that. Like, you came into this world, like, before your feet were on the ground, you knew what your purpose was. I love that. But now you teach professionals, like business professionals, how to speak from their power. What does that mean, and why is it important to you?
Yeah. So okay. So speak from your power is, like you said, my brand. I've been working with business professionals for decades. It actually started not working with business professionals. When I was in university, I was seeing my bills and they were, really piling up. And I'm like, working as a cash register for $5.95 an hour is not going to get me my bills paid. And at that point, I had already actually worked with Broadway professionals and all that in an apprenticeship program. And I wouldn't say I was seasoned, at 22 years old, but I definitely had a lot of credentials already. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll start by teaching piano and singing out of my house at $20 an hour. And what was supposed to be a university job, I loved working with the kids. And eventually I stopped teaching piano and was just singing and presentation. And then eventually I stopped teaching singing because as much as I loved teaching singing, it didn't pay nearly as much as it did to teach professionals how to speak. And so it's now been almost 30 years of a career. And to your question around why is this so important? So for me, I was born with heart failure, a 20% chance of living, and the whole left side of my body was structurally damaged. So I had my first heart surgery when I was 11 days old. And then from there, the doctor said, well, we saved her life. So let's see if we can keep her alive, but she'll probably be gone by the time she's a teenager. Clearly almost 50 as of this recording, and I'm still kicking around. So, but the left side of my body was structurally damaged. So here's a kid who wants to sing, dance, and act. And I had to have casts on my legs as a toddler in hopes that they would grow out straight and that I could walk, let alone dance. I was the kid who talked funny and had to have speech therapy to learn how to speak, let alone sing. And then I had my second heart surgery at 5, my third one at 14. Throughout my childhood, when you have an illness that you cannot see, I wasn't in a wheelchair, I wasn't blind. But I had multiple illnesses I was born with. I would try to advocate for myself. And I would hear, oh, but you look fine. Don't be such a drama queen. And so growing up, I learned that my voice didn't matter. And if you couldn't see it, it didn't exist, and that I'm a liar. And it became my lifelong mission to get my own voice heard. And as I started to do the teaching, as my university job turned lifelong career, it became a lifelong passion to help other people who feel like they are voiceless and invisible to get their voice heard. And so I have literally spent my entire life dedicated to knowing everything you could possibly imagine on speaking voice, body language, presence, energy tactics, messaging, communication, like negotiation. Like, it has been obsessive my entire life around getting my voice and other people's voices heard.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Well, and so, okay. So obviously, right? Like, you have the right to be heard, right?
Everybody does.
Yeah, you deserve to be heard. And it's funny how, you look fine, so you are fine. Isn't it funny how that mindset holds us all back, right? Like, yeah. And you were so determined. You're like, no, but you don't get it. Like, you don't get it. Like, it's, yeah. I need you to know how I feel and what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So now most people, like, that is one of the highest, public speaking is the highest, fear in people, right? Like, isn't that like the number one fear?
It is the number one. Mine is death, but
right. Like most, like, and it's like, public speaking is worse than death. Like, hello.
Yeah.
What are some practical steps that you take your clients through so that they are comfortable and own their voice and their presence?
I think this is a beautiful question, Tina, because it all is about that confidence and bloom. How do we find that confidence and bloom because we're all phenomenal. We just have to bloom into it. You know this because you have a whole podcast on it. But I'm going to take a different route with that question. So you're right. It's the number one reason that the thing that people are the most afraid of. And it's because we're so afraid to be seen and heard, because we have been shamed, we have been bullied. I don't know anybody who has not been through some kind of shaming or bullying, not enough. And it could be from anything. It could be from the media. I mean, the way that media portray women, the way that media portray certain races. I mean, it could be from the media. It could be from a brother. It could be from a sister. It could be from family, friends, a teacher. I mean, we all are shut down of our true voice and told that it's not okay to be who we really are. And so of course that's our biggest fear, is being humiliated. So in terms of practical steps, I take a very interesting and alternative view to this. So a little fun fact about me is when I did my university degree, my first major was in music, opera, and my second major was in kinesiology and health sciences with a specialization in relaxation therapy. That was a mouthful. And so,
And that's like two opposite spectrums,
yeah,
right? Like,
I know. So half the day I was like, oh, I'm a bee, and the other half of the day I was like dissecting brains and hearts and digging into like arteries. And I mean, it was awesome, but it was. And then there was that whole unit where we had to like pee into a cup and analyze our classmates' pee and blood and, draw blood. And I don't know how to do that anymore, but yeah, it was, they were very opposite skill sets. It's really quite interesting, but musical is very mathematical as well in a lot of ways. So, but yeah, so when I did my degree in relaxation therapy and kinesiology, it was really because when I had my last heart surgery at 14, doctor said, well, we managed to save your life, but you're going to continue to have to need more heart surgeries. You're going to continue to be on medication for the rest of your life. And thankfully, I was a defiant 14-year-old, and I said, F you in my mind, not to them. I'm not that bold. I'm bold in other ways. And I literally at 14 went into the library every day, and I would read everything I could about heart problems and medications, and every time I would go to the hospital every week for my weekly checkups to see if I'm still alive and breathing, I would ask questions. And I didn't know what intuition was at the time, but my intuition said, well, if I'm on 4 pills a day and my vitals are stable every week, maybe I can just go on 3.5 pills and my body will adjust. And I did that. And after a few weeks, I'm like, well, my body adjusted. I seem to be fine. And I kept knocking down the pills by the end of the year. And this is not to be construed as medical advice. This is a highly irresponsible 14-year-old, and it happened to work out fine. But I seem to have trained my mind and my body to not need medication. So I've been medication free for over 35 years. I have not needed another heart surgery. They told me that you shouldn't do anything beyond general courses. And here I did a double degree, double major honors. They told me not to sing, dance, and act because it would be too strenuous. And here I performed in shows, 8 shows a week, singing, dancing, and acting. So there's real power in the power of us and the power of research and understanding the alternative methods, again, not to be construed as medical advice, but most things that most people are going through health-wise can be healed in the body naturally in different ways. So that's a whole other conversation. But
yeah.
But going back to the kinesiology, I did that part of the degree because I wanted to educate myself and empower myself to reverse illness, which I have. I mean, when I left the US before moving to France, my integrative medical doctor said, it's amazing to see through the years how you've literally reduced your numbers and literally changed your chemistry over the years. She's like, I've never had a patient do that. She's like, somebody needs to do a documentary on you.
Well, that's what happens when you advocate for yourself, right? Like
that's right.
You did your research, right? And
right.
And this is like, these are the results you get. Yeah.
This is the results you get. You got to question authority, people. This is like, you got to question authority. But going back to the question around public speaking and why it's a fear. The relaxation therapy, so piece of the specialization. Over my years of training voices, body language, all these pieces, I started to notice specifically that the issues that clients were having with their voice or their body language, specific issues were directly correlated to a trauma that they were going through, or they had had an unresolved trauma. And I really need someone, a scientist, to take this all of out of my head and like actually like document this and test it to make sure that I'm not losing my mind. But I started to see the direct influence between stress in the body and unresolved trauma and how it affects your presentation style. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So a lot of women, when they're talking up here and they're more higher here, and that means they're talking in the top half of their chest. And so what that means is that they're not able to breathe deep into their body, and it's because they have unresolved trauma. Most of the time, again, not scientifically proven, but most of the time when I get women with a super high that voice and they're disconnected, it's because they've been through some kind of a sexual trauma as an adult. Although the ones who've had sexual traumas as a child, they have different issues with their voice. It's totally fascinating. And so it's super interesting because as I would start to actually use the relaxation therapy degree that I had and start to work with clients, they started to get safe in their body. So going back to the public speaking fear, most people have that fear because they're not safe in their body. Everybody has certain levels of unresolved trauma. We all do. A lot of us have overcome it and just have little pieces of it coming up. Some of us haven't. There's no judgment. We all have our own path. Even if we had no unresolved trauma, we all have stress. Just even watching the news these days is causing stress in everybody. So let me explain the science. So I'm going to pull out my science hat for a moment. So when we are having a stress and or trauma response, what happens is we have multiple nerves going on, but I'm going to talk about the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve's function is to be able to calm the body down. It's the parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation response. That's what the purpose of it. The vagus nerve goes from your head down your spine, the back of your spine, down into the pelvic floor. So when it gets damaged because of trauma or stress, or triggered because of trauma or stress, it automatically takes away the safety that we have in our pelvic floor. So, right, like I've been speaking this whole time from my pelvic floor, but if I'm not feeling safe, I'm now up in my chest, and it changed my voice and it made me louder. But now if I'm slouching with this and I'm up in my chest, now my voice sounds like this. So it literally, when we're not feeling safe in our body, when we're not able to get that breath into the body, into the pelvic floor to massage these specific nerves, not just the vagus nerve, but I don't want to go into a whole hour-long science about this, but there are specific nerves that when you massage them with your breath and exhale longer than the inhale, that stimulates the relaxation response. So even just doing that, if someone's nervous, learning how to get into their body will automatically calm their nerves and make them feel safe. But for so many people, because there's so much stress going on, they don't feel safe in their bodies. So it ends up affecting their voice, their body language, if they're fidgety or not. Fidgety is a really good way to turn people off. Like it literally ends up translating into that. But then people get extra nervous because they're not connected to their power sources and those nerves that are specifically meant to keep you feeling safe.
Wow. So that was a lot.
I have a very opposite because I have
that
the
was a
science
lot of
behind it.
information, but it was
Yeah, it's a
amazing.
lot.
Now I've learned a little bit about the vagus nerve, and I get it. Like that's like the main,
Yeah.
that's the center of our nervous system. So yeah, I get that. Now there's a lot to learn about the vagus nerve. I mean, you know that, right? There, it's not simple, right? There is nothing about the human body that is simple. Right? I mean, we're learning that as time goes on, right? I love that. I love that. I mean, it sounds simple, like to just take a deep breath, right? Longer exhale than inhale. Like I get that part, but it's a lot easier than it sounds, isn't it? Like that takes practice.
It takes practice. And for some people, like I will sometimes have someone do a consult with me and I can tell that they have so much trauma in their body that my work will actually trigger them. And I'm not a trauma specialist. So I have to find a kind way to tell them that I can't take them on. Because some people just have too much trauma in their body, and doing the deep breathing into the pelvic floor, either they can't do it or they do it and then they have a trauma response. And this is part of the reason why I have a really hard time with with how there's so much embodiment work out there. I love that there's a lot of embodiment work out there, but a lot of the people teaching it are not trauma informed and are not licensed. So even though I do have a degree in relaxation therapy, I never did the license because I didn't think I was going to use it. So I'm probably more qualified to deal with the trauma and could, but I won't because I know my boundaries. And it's the thing that concerns me is that there's a lot of really good work being done out there, but some of these people cannot be able to discern when this person actually needs professional help versus embodiment work.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
professional help, you mean like not physical, like a medical doctor, but more like maybe like a psychiatrist or something.
So what I usually tell people, again, not to be construed as medical attention or medical advice, what I've learned through my own studies is, and this is actually scientifically proven, trauma sits at the cellular level. So you can go and do talk therapy, and it's a brilliant way for you to talk through your emotions and talk through it and be able to help yourself process. But your body still has, there is actually a great book. What is it called? The Body Keeps Score. My body,
Mhm.
the body keeps score, something
The
like
body
that.
keeps the score. Yeah, I have
The
it.
Body Keeps Score. If you want to go into this and with someone who's licensed, go read that book. But essentially, it's great that you can talk through things. It's great to cognitively understand, but the body keeps score. It is sitting in your cellular memory. And that's why a lot of people do years of work on themselves, but they don't fully release because it's still stuck in the cells. And that cell, those cells end up translating into dis-ease. And it's a
Right.
huge reason, right? And so a lot of the way that I was able to reverse my illnesses was through food and diet, of course, but a lot of it was learning this piece around getting to the cellular level of where the trauma is and releasing it from there. And that has been the game changer for me. The more that I've done that, as well as altered foods, the more that I have reversed my illnesses to the point where I'm turning 50 and I've never felt healthier because I've been sick my whole life. So I've actually gotten healthier with age versus most people are aging. I'm getting younger because I was so sick most of my life.
Right, right. Yeah. And I mean, we were learning, like we've talked about it, on the podcast here before. Trauma is like trauma, it has like it's a big line of, what trauma really is, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be like, abuse or like physical, right? There's so many, like trauma is trauma, right? And our bodies
Yeah.
hold on to it whatever way it is happening to them, right? It's not
Yeah.
necessarily that it's, you were sexually abused or physically abused or mentally abused. There's
Yeah.
little things like bullying is trauma to your body,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
We hold, and bullying, I mean, we all know bullying comes in, like the range is so wide, right? So, I want to reiterate that trauma is trauma. It doesn't matter, what
Yeah.
type of trauma it is, but your body will hold on to it. So you
I
want to
love
walk,
that you're I
you
love that you're
want to,
talking about that. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, okay, yeah. I was gonna go on to my next question, but if you have a comment about the
Okay,
trauma,
I
please.
just want to finish up the nurse thing. So on a physical level, what you want to do is exhale longer than your inhale when you're nervous before you public speak. Like literally take that breath in, do your best to get it in your belly, and then exhale out nice and long. And if you do that for 2-3 minutes, it'll calm your nervous system down and it will help with the nerves.
Yeah, and then counting as well, right? Like counting how many seconds to breathe in, and then try to at least make that like 3 to 4 breaths or counts longer when you're exhaling.
Yeah, you definitely, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, yeah. I've learned that in yoga, and it has like I don't even know like how to explain how helpful
Yeah.
that is.
It's so simple, but it makes all the difference. And really
Yeah.
feel your feet, feel your body. Yeah, it's breathing. I mean, we can't live without breath, and we don't learn how to breathe properly growing up. It's crazy.
Yeah, we don't, and we take advantage of the breath that we have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about your book, Liberate Your Voice.
Oh, that book. Yes.
It talks about your power in the world that also shuts you down,
Yeah.
right? Like we have power, but that power also holds us back. So first I want to know what inspired you to write it, and what is one lesson in that book that resonates with most of your audience?
Yeah. So I was not planning on writing a book. And BMW had hired me to speak. And they're one of like, I love BMWs. I was so excited. They're like, but we don't pay speakers. We only buy their books. So are you good with us buying X amount of books from you? And I said, sure. They're like, great. So I'm like, I guess I'm writing a book. So I signed this contract without having had a book.
Oh no.
So welcome to my life where when things show up, I'm like, okay, it's showing up. I guess I'm doing it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm a little crazy. So in terms of the power piece, one tip I would really talk about is the justifying piece where we lose our power. You know, you're running late for work, you get in, your boss is like, you didn't get this to my desk on time. And then you're like, I'm so sorry. My daughter was sick this morning. And then she was throwing up. And then I took her to the car and then there was an accident and then I had to get rerouted and da, da, da. Your boss doesn't give a shit about that. And I would hope that they do, but most don't. But the thing is that by you over explaining and you justifying, you are actually taking away your power. And so it's that everyday situation of the person who is constantly, diminishing themselves by over explaining as if they're not enough, as if they have to justify their existence. The conversation with that same boss that morning was, yes, I'm late. I had an emergency. I will stay later and this will get done. That's it. Your boss just needed to know that's going to get done. That's it. You did not need to lose your power and your energy and feel like you were subservient to them. Where I see it a lot is people losing their power with sales and negotiations.
Sales is that's a conversation on its own.
I know.
When it comes to speaking your word, right? I mean, that's a touchy subject.
Yeah. What I will say is you ask more questions and you listen more. And when you respond, you don't give away the boat. Because the more that you give away, the more that they could use it against you to be able to knock you down in price or knock you down in some way. So it's always about asking questions and positioning. So for example, a huge amount of my clients want to be on big stages. So the biggest complaint in the speaking world is, I don't know why I always have to do free, and I don't know why it's so hard to get paid, and da 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 da. So I'm like, here's a list of questions when you're talking to a meeting planner to ask. And I said, you're partially asking these questions because you should ask them, and it's good so that you can customize and do a great job. But I want you really listening to what their assets are, because when it comes to the price, they might say, well, we pay 5,000 and your speaking fee is 10. So you want to be able to go in from a place of power, because then it becomes, thank you so much for the offer for the 5,000. As we've talked about before, you're looking to, meet these objectives, right? Yes. Excellent. My standard fee is 10,000. If we were able to find a way to fill the gap of the extra 5,000, would you be open to that? So it's none of this, but I'm a $10,000 speaker. I can't believe, you can't lose your power, right? You can't go, well, the last gig I got $10,000, and that, you have to be careful. Or I see a lot of people go, oh, okay, I want that gig for 5,000. I know it's not my regular fee, but I really want to get on stage. And I'm like, you just lost it right there. Right. So when
I get that. I see what you're saying. So it's like, you have to know your worth, right? You have to know your worth, and you have to be willing to get your worth without degrading yourself, really, without being willing, without giving part of you away.
And without over explaining and without justifying it, without humming and hawing. You just got to stick to, so in the conversation I just had, I honored her. Thank you so much for that offer. And I also reiterated why they wanted to hire me. You said you want to achieve this. I can't wait to help them feel that. My standard fee is 10,000. If we were to find a way to fill the gaps in other ways, would you be open? Then he or she is going to go, yes. I've never had anyone say no to this, by the way. Yes. Okay, great. Well, as when we were talking earlier, because I asked questions and you should be asking questions, you said the media are coming. Would you be able to secure me a media interview? And you know what I mean? People are like, how did you get so much media attention without a publicist? I'm like, because I negotiate into everything I do. So, and I know how to get in the right rooms, right? So, and it's like, great. And I know that you are having a reception. Would you be open to me having a booth? And I sell books during the reception and we do it like a spotlight of a book signing. Great. That's a great idea. By the way, I noticed that you have this department. Do you also have a reinforcement budget from that department? Because we could also do workbooks for everybody. Suddenly you went from $5,000 to $15,000 plus 2 media interviews and a booth. You see where I'm going?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
But
and it doesn't
but
sound
you have to ask the questions, ask and
right.
listen.
And you have to know, you kind of already know, like when you ask the right questions, you kind of already know too what their answers are going to be when you come forward with that negotiation, right? Like you kind of know that they're totally going to go for this because I'm not going to walk away and they want me. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you've performed on big stages, like at the Oscars Gala, Times Square Fashion Week. So does that, now you performed at Times Square Fashion Week, does that mean you were a model or you were like
I was a headlining performer.
Oh, like an
I was like the headlining performer. So when Broadway reopened in 2021 after COVID, I was that was me as a headlining performer, 8,000 people, surrounded by 8,000 people in Times Square. I was on the billboard and people are like, how much did you pay to be on the billboard? I'm like, honey, I don't pay to be on billboards. I get on, like, it's so funny because people buy, there's no criticism to this, but a lot of people buy the billboards to be on and they're like, look at me, I made it in the Times Square. And that's great, leverage that, but that's a flash in the pan tactic. You want to have real influence to the point where you get hired for stuff and they pay for that stuff because you're the star of that. So yeah, so I headlined Times Square Fashion Week. It was crazy, 8,000 people. I have to tell you, at first I was like, they're getting a 40-something-year-old when they could have gotten a 22-year-old. And I didn't diminish myself, but I was thinking in my brain, I'm like, it's so interesting that I got hired because I know there's ageism in my industry. And I'm, at the time, 2021, how old was I? I don't even know. I was probably 46 or something like that. And so it was super interesting because when I did Times Square, I thought a 21-year-old wouldn't have been able to handle the situation. I've been performing for over 30 years. I will tell you that to perform in Times Square, you have to be at the top of your field because it is a level of stimulation and overwhelm. And you cannot rehearse in Times Square. The first time that you perform in Times Square is the first time you perform in Times Square. So I had 4 dancers behind me. And so the dancers and I went and did a walkthrough, but nothing was set up. So we were literally surrounded by all these tourists in Times Square 2 days before, and we were walking it through, but we were literally walking where we're going to be marked and stuff. And then the day of came and there's no backstage. So you're literally in a little tent with all these people trying to grab at you, get pictures of you. And I had 20 models who were like, towering over me. When people see me in person, they're like, oh my God, you're so tiny. So I'm like, right. And I normally have the routine of nobody talk to me for the 15 minutes before I go on stage. So I was literally in this chaos and having to stay really grounded. And again, it's my first time performing in Times Square. There is no rehearsal. And I just come out. And then I discover when I come out, I didn't even get to do my own sound check, by the way.
Wow.
Right. And I find out it's not a corded mic and the cord is going past the dancers. So on top of me dealing with 8,000 people, all the paparazzi, lights all over, people screaming, people taking pictures, I'm trying to sense as an actor, the 4 dancers behind me and manage what I'm doing, that I'm not moving too fast with my dance moves because I don't want the cord to be swinging and tripping them. I'm telling you, if you are not 40 something and seasoned and you're like, I was like, thank God they got an old chick to do this,
Right.
It was like a level of difficult.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, it was a level of difficult that it was like,
oh, wow. Well,
here's a funny thing, because if you Google Cindy Ashton Times Square, you'll see the the footage, people who've known me for 20 years, have been seeing me perform for a long time. They said, you were spectacular, but they said, I can tell that you were very guarded. They said, we've never seen you this guarded when performing. I said, I had to protect the dancers. And I was literally having noise and flashing lights coming at me from every angle. You cannot get distracted. Whereas if you look at my Oscars luxury gala performance, I opened, and I think you're in my age range. And who was it that closed? Kool and the Gang. Do you remember Kool and the Gang?
Oh my gosh,
They
yes.
closed it, so I opened and Kool and the Gang. Yeah, so it was like a
Oh, right on. Oh my
It was so,
goodness.
I know, right? But if you see that performance, I was like jotting through the stage, and I was like, don't tell me not to leave. Like, I was just like boom, boom, boom with my dance moves, and I couldn't care. I had a giant stage and everybody was in front of me, so it was totally fine. That was an easy performance, except for the fact that I had bronchitis. But thankfully, it was I had bronchitis in that performance. So if you watch that online, unless you're a singing teacher, you probably wouldn't tell, because I have enough vocal technique. I was able to play with placement and stuff. But yeah, like that, you can see that performance on Free as a Bird, but Times Square, I was very the level of focus. I'm like, I want to do Times Square again, but I want different circumstances next time.
Wow, that
Regardless,
sounds amazing. Honestly, it sounds
It's crazy.
absolutely amazing. Yeah, I just love it. Now, if someone comes to you and they feel stuck, they're afraid to speak up, or they're unsure really of what their voice really is, what is one powerful way you can help them shift and start feeling like a little bit of freedom in what their voice should be or what they have to say?
So part of the reason, so we talked about the physical stress. So part of the mental stress is that a lot of people don't know what they want to say. They don't know what their message is. So that causes mental stress. So with those people, I do a lot of work with messaging and helping them to find the words that feel natural to them. And once they've got those words, then I teach them how to not memorize them, because most people, when they try to memorize, they feel inauthentic. They feel like they have to be polished. It's too much pressure. But then we embody it. So with somebody, if they're going to a conversation and they have to negotiate, we come up with different languaging and sound bites, and then we role play. And I have them quite often literally walk around the room and just practice the talking points, because as they do that, by the time they get to the fifth or sixth time, they've actually figured out what they've fine-tuned what the message is, and it's in their body. Because when we walk, it helps it to get in the body. So when it comes to the mental stress, they're afraid to speak. They first have to say, what do I really want to say? And start to work on writing that message out. And then don't worry about perfection. Get something on paper and literally walk around and just read the message, and then improvise the message, and do it when no one's around, so you can play, put some music on, and then you're going to record yourself. And eventually you're going to go, okay, that's the message. That felt good in my body. I'm very much about be connected to your body, listen to your intuition. Your body knows when a message feels right. A huge reason why so many people are afraid of public speaking is because most speaking training is about perfection and polish. And it feels inauthentic, especially my ideal clientele. They are super heart-based. They are all about purpose. They are super successful, but they just haven't been able to get on the stages and all these other pieces. And they need to be fully embodied. They need to feel connected to the message. They can't be polished or perfect. They feel like a fraud. So I really recommend that you take the time just to play around with different sound bites and walk it through and talk it through and record yourself and go, that's what felt right. And you'll know when it feels right, because your body will tell you. You'll feel joy in your body. You're going to go, oh, I think I just got that. That's cool.
Yeah, I can really resonate with that, because I mean, I'm not really a big public speaker, but I've done a few, presentations, for networking and that. And yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like, you have to feel it in your body, not just like say it off your lips. Like, it doesn't, you have to feel it. Right. And I think, like, with entrepreneurship and business, that's a big part of how we make our business productive, right? I mean, like, you have to know your message, number one, but you also have to be able to say it in a way that is authentic to yourself. It's the real you speaking it, and the people you're saying it to is hearing it the way you want them to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other piece that I find with a lot of entrepreneurs and people wanting to get their message out is that they don't know how to differentiate it. They don't, it's like I look at what you're doing, it's very clear what your differentiation is, but most stylists, I'm like, you're a stylist and you don't have a brand. And I don't mean that from a judgment place, but I don't understand what makes them different. You know, I find that most stylists don't have a lot of differentiation. I find that most people in business don't have enough differentiation. So one of the things, and then that's part of the reason why people feel like I don't know how to get my voice heard, because I feel like I feel like I'm saying what everyone else is saying. So one of the things that I love having my clients do is talk about, thinking about people who do something similar to you. Where do you think that they're missing the mark? Or what are they saying that you're like, I have a different method, or I don't quite agree with them. Now, it's not about making somebody else wrong. There's so much abundance in the world. There is room for all of us to thrive. A lot of people, I am not their cup of tea. I'm just not. And that's okay. But my clients know that they're my clients. So it's really important to realize it's not about you trying to find your competition and saying they're doing this wrong, but it's more about looking at that and going, yeah, that doesn't work. Right. So like, if you look at my stuff, everyone's like, oh my God, to be a great speaker, you've got to have confidence. And I'm like, well, confidence is overrated if you've got stress in your body. And people go, what? And then I
Yeah.
explain how it influences. Like, that's I have many differentiators, but people like, oh, wait a second. So, and it's a huge reason why I attract people, because I'm the only one that I know so far in my industry really talking about the stress connection and the connection of voice and embodiment and how you're showing up and all these pieces. But yeah, so again, not about making people wrong, but really being able to say, oh, this is how I'm different. And then it makes you not feel like a fraud. And then it makes you feel like a whole person, and it gives you that confidence. It gives you that power.
Right. Because a lot of people show confidence in their performance as far as their work, right? And that doesn't have to be as an actor, right? I mean, we all know people, I mean, in the acting world, we know of people that we see them on screen and we're amazed that they're so awesome. They're, and then they're, you hear that in the background when they're not in front of the camera, they're suffering with depression and mental health and all that stuff. And so where's the link? Where's the, how do you perform that way and then live so silently, off the camera? So at least that's what I, with what you said, that's what came to me. Like, you have to be yourself no matter where you are. Right. Whether
I mean, I can actually answer being an actor. I can answer that question, but yeah. I mean, it's letting yourself be seen. I mean, the beautiful thing, as actors, it's about coming from truth. And that's why we're so convincing, because we're not trying to put on a show. I have people who don't choose me because I'm an actor, because they're like, well, she's an actor and it's going to be all fake. And I'm like, actually, when you watch, what's one of your favorite movies, Tina?
Oh God, I don't know if I have a favorite movie. I mean, I love Sound of Music, but I love Robert De Niro. I love him. Like, I don't know what it is about him, but I love like his acting. I don't care about his personal life, but his acting, I love watching him.
Right. But do you believe him when you're watching him in a role? Do you go, oh, he's fake acting, or you're totally engrossed in that?
It's him. Like, I feel like that's who he is.
That's the thing that people don't understand. True actors are fully embodied in their characters, because we have something called sense memories, and we do analysis. Like, we have to do as actors deep analysis of your own psychology, the psychology of the people you're playing the scene with. You have to analyze what's their motivation, what's mine, how do I get what I want out of the scene. We understand psychology in a way that the normal person can't. It's a huge reason why I'm great at messaging with my clients, because I can ask such deep questions, because I'm so used to, as an actor, analyzing scripts and analyzing motivations and what's that motivation and what's truthful and what's not. But the greatest actors are fully embodied in that, and they can find that sadness in them. They can find, like, we use something called sense memories to find the triggers from our own life. And there's different ways to get into that. We're not going to get into whole acting dissertation now. But, this is another thing, is like, it's so important that you come from truth. So even though an actor could be very depressed in their other life, they have that truth in them that they're able to bring to that character. And it's the same thing for all of us business people. It's like, what is the truth that you bring? And then it's about embodying it like the actor does. And, you know, when you've got a lot of people who in business who show up and they're all sunshine and roses and they're depressed in the background. I mean, I think that everybody struggles with mental health to some degree. And the more that you work on yourself, the better it gets. But you've got good days, you've got bad days, and just some people are more extreme than other. There's no judgment. I've had lots of mental health issues in the past. And yeah, but
Yeah.
it goes back to finding the truth. And when we find our truth is when we find our wholeness and it heals.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Finding your truth isn't always easy, right? I mean, that's also another plug we got to put in there, because sometimes we have so many limiting beliefs that we don't know until we realize that those are what's holding us back. We don't know what our truth is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to say to our listeners?
Yeah, I do. You know, when you're talking about that truth, I just want to say it takes a lot of courage to do the truthful way. This is why I know that I will never push somebody into a sale, partially because it's just not good karma and that they're going to be a nightmare client, but partially because my work is about getting connected to your body, connected to your truth. Most people will never work with me because it's too terrifying.
Yeah,
It
it
is.
wouldn't scare me. I'll be honest, because I mean, let's face it. I mean, I consider myself an authentic person, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm true to myself. But at the same time, like that deep work, like that, it's not going to come easy working with you, right? You have to dig
I'm
deep.
very loving, I'm kind, but it's a liberation process for most people. The people
Yeah.
that work with me end up being fully liberated. And there's no right and wrong. That's why I'm like, I just stay in my lane, and the people who are attracted are attracted. But yeah, so what I will say is that love yourself for where you're at. There, you know, God, we're all just doing the best we can on this planet. We are. I mean,
That is so true.
it is. And you know what? I'm going to tell a little story, to finish this up. So when I was 5, I actually died on the operating table. And I was in the light and I was looking, back and forth at my body and, and the doctors and the green tiles. I still remember it all, and looking back in the light and, you know, my big, obviously I came back, or it's either that or I'm kind of a ghost hanging out on this podcast with you. But what I will say is that in that moment, what I'm very clear on is that the core of all of us is love. None of the hate in the world, none of the stress in the world, none of the trauma in the world, none of the judgment in the world. All of this is a human construction. But but when we get back to our soul, we're love. This is the truth of our soul. And for those who don't show up in love, they've forgotten the truth of who they are. And again, no judgment. We all go through our stuff. But imagine if we had a world where everybody had that experience that I did. That I understood that. I mean, and then I came back and I was like, what the freak am I doing back on this planet? I really struggled for decades. And it's one of the reasons why I was very suicidal as a teenager and attempted 3 times. And because I just couldn't comprehend being in light and love and weightlessness. And then I'm back on this planet that's so evil at the time. That's what it felt like. And and especially because times are so difficult right now in the world. It's like we're going from this old world of greed and inequality to, I'm truly hoping that what's happening is going to turn people into realizing that we really are one. And then when we die, our religion, our ethnicity, our sex, are like, none of these things exist when we're dead. They just don't. So I feel like my final message is just to take the time just to keep remembering your divinity and do your very best to love yourself and just be kind to others.
Wow. Thank you so much, Cindy.
Thank you for having me, Tina. I love meeting my fellow Canucks, my fellow Canadians.
Yeah, it's been awesome. It has been so awesome.
It's so awesome. I'm very grateful for you. Thank you for everything.
Confidence in Bloom is a celebration of self-love, a confirmation that even you may not look like a screen star or a supermodel. They don't even look like that. You are an amazing, desirable, brilliant, gorgeous, talented woman. We offer unconditional love to our partners, our children, our extended family, even our pets. It's high time we got out of our own way and learned to unconditionally love ourselves. In Full Bloom Styling and Coaching offers an online program combined with one-on-one coaching in confidence building, personal branding, and creating your signature fashion look. Chic definitely does come in every shape, so if you want something to believe in, start with yourself. If you'd like to be a guest here on Confidence in Bloom, contact me through Instagram at infobloomstyling, by email tina@infobloomstyling.com, or through the Divas That Care website.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.